Nicole, you are hosting, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, so you will be bringing people in.
yes, I will do that.
Okay, so on our very first item on the vaccine distribution, I think Katie Wells is going to be giving the briefing on that.
All right. Thank you.
And I have 2 o'clock.
I'll start the meeting.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, September, where'd that come from?
Let's not go
December,
back.
December the
Okay.
15th. Going back in time.
That's not
Our strategic planning agenda. I now call this meeting to order. We do have several items that we need to work through today. And at the end of our strategic planning, the city attorney has let me know that we do need some time allotted for an attorney-client privilege. So we'll try to make time for the attorney today for that. So at this time, Madam Clerk, if you would bring in Katie Wells, please, and she's going to give us a briefing on the vaccine distribution for Hamilton County.
Yes.
Good
Hi, Ms.
afternoon,
Wells.
Council.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
So Mara and I are here today to discuss with you kind of 3 items related to the COVID-19 vaccine here in Hamilton County. We're going to cover 3 things with you today, and then we're happy to take questions following our presentation. So I'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
We wanted to do first a quick reminder of some resources that are available to your constituents related to COVID-19 data and testing. So those are, we host on our city website at cha.city/COVID testing, a testing calendar that's updated weekly with available testing throughout the county. So folks have the ability to get tested. We also, we have access to data, and your constituents have access to data at health.hamiltontn.org. That site is updated every day between 3:30 and 4 with the latest data on daily cases happening here in Hamilton County. The second thing we wanted to cover for you is that Maura and I joined a meeting with state and local officials last week regarding vaccine planning and distribution. And I just want to go over some quick highlights of that meeting, and then we'll move on to this third section. So there's not too much information to share that's not already publicly available. And we did send an email this morning with links to some of those resources for you, for the city council members, and also to share with your constituents as well. As you all know, the Pfizer vaccine was approved by the FDA for distribution to Americans late last week. Vaccine distribution will begin this week locally and then move through the summer of 2021. That's going to be based on priority, with individuals most at risk receiving the vaccine first. So this week, our local hospital systems will be receiving vaccines to begin voluntary inoculation of their frontline medical workers in the next few days and weeks. Coming online very soon is the Moderna vaccine. It'll be reviewed by the FDA this Thursday, and pending approvals, distribution will likely begin roughly a week or 2 after the Pfizer vaccine. Moving through the winter, and again, based on availability and through the priority levels, the vaccine will be distributed to staff and residents at long-term care facilities. That'll be through a federal partnership with CVS and Walgreens. Those teams will go into those long-term care facilities to inoculate the staff and residents there. Also, first responders who come in contact with the public, they will be receiving vaccines as well, and through the winter time. There are also 4 other vaccines currently in development right now, with 2 of the vaccines pending all appropriate approvals projected to come online in the first quarter of 2021. And of course, once those vaccines become available, distribution will continue in earnest as we move through the priority populations through the state's vaccine plan. And as I said, as we sent through our email this morning, the vaccine distribution plan can be found on the Tennessee State Department's website, which is updated frequently. It's a living document that's frequently updated and will be updated through the process. Additionally, the state's COVID-19 vaccine website has a great FAQ section that's updated frequently with some really valuable information that your constituents can use when they are thinking through getting the vaccine. And then there's also a state hotline that folks can call that has been staffed up with state employees to answer constituent questions about the vaccine and COVID-19 in general. And of course, so as we wait for the vaccine to become available to all residents, it's important to encourage residents and to empower themselves with this information about the safety and efficacy of the vaccines, so they're ready to take it when the vaccine becomes available to them. And finally, of course, if we need to reduce the amount of virus in our community, and the way we can do that is by masking up, washing our hands frequently, and only socializing with those inside one's household for the time being. That way, the vaccine, when it becomes available to our constituents, will have the most impact it can. And unless Maura has anything to add to that, I'm happy to take questions or at least direct folks to where they can find answers to their questions.
Okay, Katie, Councilman Ledford does have his hand up. He's got a question or a comment. Go ahead, Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Katie, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. Listen, my question is related into some of the data reporting. Do you know if we are getting the updates in real time, or if they're coming in batches? Are they grouped together? Reading a little bit about what the health department has put out in backlog of data. And then this has become quite the thing in our house to digest, research, and whatnot. And then do we have any appetite at all to try to separate this data from the assisted living cases that seem to be climbing, but we seem to not want to, in my humble opinion, seem to identify it or even separate it out into its own category?
Sure, so I can speak first to the data on the Hamilton County website. So that data is inputted as I know as fast as Hamilton County Health Department staff can input it. So and there's also, these systems that these health departments in the state health department use are systems that weren't exactly prepared for a pandemic. So they are working at maximum capacity. I know the staff at the state and the local level are working at the maximum capacity, but there are certain backlogs in data and information. The health department can really speak more to that. I only know kind of what information that I know about that, but I do know that there are certain backlogs, and just through certain processes, there's a delay in getting the information out there. But it is the best resource for constituents to understand the landscape of COVID-19 in our community right now, for sure. And as far as the data for assisted living facilities, I'm not aware of that breakdown. And Maura, if you are aware of anything, please jump in. But I'm not aware of that breakdown, but I'm more than happy to look into that and get back with you and follow up with you on that.
Okay, you have to dig for it, but it's out there.
Anything else,
I'm good.
Councilman? Okay.
Thank you.
Katie, one thing you mentioned, kind of the succession of order that we're going to go in. You mentioned that our healthcare workers, nursing homes, and then first responders. who classifies first responders? Is that strictly emergency personnel only? Or are we going to be able to get our public works employees that go out on a daily basis included in those first responders?
So I'll defer to Mara on that question.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Mr. Chair. We understand from the state that that is police, fire, ambulance, that is, those are the first responders that they are classifying. But that information is still evolving. I've personally made a request that Public Works be included in that to match the first responder designation given to Public Works after 9/11, but have not heard back.
Okay, that's what I was asking, if we could at least make the ask if they're not included. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Katie and Mara, for bringing us the updated information. My question is, with the vaccination, do we know if it's mandated for our first responders to take it, or is it optional?
I'll defer again to Mara on that.
We can, thank you, Councilwoman. We can mandate. We are legally, we can mandate. We're going to be working through an optional status at first, just because we won't have enough vaccine for every single person in our first responder cohort immediately. We certainly will as the vaccine continues to get to us and to get out among every city and really every country. But at first we'll be working on an optional basis and then move to mandatory as we're sure that we have enough vaccine to get through the entire workforce.
Okay, and so if you choose to make it mandatory, and because I know there's a lot of people who choose not to get vaccinated, and even from birth up, do we have anything in place for that? Like, I think even though it's mandated, like it should be optional if you get vaccinated as well. So we don't want to lose people because they don't want to get vaccinated.
Right. Yeah, there are legal exclusions that, we already have some vaccinations that are mandatory for our employee workforce, depending on where you work and the types of things that you work around. And there are exclusions to those based on religious or other considerations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Any other questions for our guests this afternoon? If not, Madam Clerk, you can excuse our guest. Thank you. All right, Council, moving on to our next agenda item, Council goals and objectives. If you would, in your packet today, pull up your City Council plan of work. And I'm going to turn the floor over to Councilwoman Burrs and let her address the plan of work that we have laid out for the council.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chair. So this has to do with how we make up the budget, or how the administration makes up the budget every year. And part of that are public hearings where we and our constituents get inputs. And we've had 3 of those. And the other piece are when we ourselves work on our own goals and objectives for the council, and those the administration puts in the mix when they're making decisions about things. So what we do and should do every year is go over these so that the administration has a clear understanding of where we are, and then our decisions should be made based on our own goals and objectives and the public welfare. So given that, about 6 weeks ago, I originally sent them out, and I've heard from no one but Councilman Ledford about any changes that he would like, and it's massaging some words. So if you all have anything else you want to add, let me know, and then that will be forwarded to administration for their consideration when they're making their decisions. The other piece of that was God, you just disappeared. Can you see me?
Yes,
Okay.
we can see you.
Okay, it just disappeared on me.
You look
Um,
great.
That's okay. As long as you can see me, I'm good. The other thing is that several council people asked how they could participate from the very beginning in this. And that's not up to us. That's up to administration. In the past, what we had done was ask, go to our rules and regulations, and it pretty much says that council and administration work on the budget together. What that means with a strong mayor is a strong mayor, weak council form of government is exactly the way we've been doing it, except we haven't had as much input because we have not at the beginning put in our goals and objectives. So today I want to make sure that these are our goals and objectives. And if there's anyone that has any changes, please let me know. We have all the lists of all of you that attended the public meetings, and we know you've had your input there. And then if there's any other way that you would like to have input, we can talk about it more, or you can talk directly to administration about it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I think I would just go around, go around the room and just make sure that each chairperson is good with, and we don't have Councilman Byrd here today, our public safety chair, but Councilman Ledford, changes that you would like to see or need to make in your planning and zoning.
Yes, sir. The changes I had submitted to Dr. Burrs would be in relation to the reassessment of our zoning code. And part of that charge would be to create the process for evaluation by council and to set forth changes based on those suggestions by this council. That was one item that draws attention. The second item is to work across the entire city. And I see this in planning commission quite frequently, where the general public, so to speak, doesn't really understand fully some of the zoning tools that are out there and available and suggesting that help benefit the community. And I would like to be able to share that information with the community so that they can have more impactful suggestions when we are talking about zoning cases. So those are two items that I'd like to try to focus on in planning and zoning for next year.
Well, zoning is something that certainly impacts many residents on a monthly basis, depending on what kind of cases we see, and our constituents certainly need to be aware of and informed when those changes are going on. All right, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Oglesby, economic and community development, any changes or anything that you'd like to update on your side, sir?
No, Mr. Chair, I've gone over this over and over, and it's in good shape. At this moment, I can't think of anything that I would add, but surely I like everything that's currently on there. So I'll continue to evaluate it. But as of right now, Mr. Chair, I'm good with where I'm at.
Okay, Public Works and Transportation, Councilman Mitchell, anything on here that strikes you as needing to be changed or updated?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, because of the good work of folks like Councilperson Burrs and Councilman Byrd, it really, I want to put something in there, and I'm still wordsmithing it, on the directions as it relates to the council getting better understandings of certain policies. Litter policy would be the example of Councilperson Burrs. Alley's an example of Councilperson Byrd. And those policies obviously directly affect the budget, because it's how much do we appropriate and what priorities are those given by the Department of Public Works or Transportation. So I would like to add something in there that would be a goal of the council to set a commitment that would be continuing to explore different policies as they directly relate to budget, and become more educated about them, among other things, and then hopefully try to exercise some leverage on directions of budget funding as it relates to those policies. Did that make any sense?
Sure, it does to me, if I may, Mr. Chair. So
Go ahead.
I've totally lost my visual, so I'm just doing audio. So I think you're saying that somehow you want us to be able to relate whatever a policy is to real cost?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be one of the objectives of moving in this direction, yes. And it's stated in a goal.
Okay. Do you want it here or do you want it under budget and finance?
Well, that's a good question. I think I want it here,
Okay.
but it should obviously feed into budget and finance, which possibly many of these goals should.
Yeah,
In
that's
my
what I
opinion.
was
Well,
wondering.
they all would eventually.
Well, or we got some bad goals.
Well, I think, I think you're on point here with something with the litter, particularly
Yes,
with alleys. And I think it does need to reside in Public Works and Transportation, because that has become such an important issue in this council. So Councilwoman Burrs, I guess my question before we turn this in, we know we need to do a little bit of work here. Do you and Councilman Mitchell just want to get together and wordsmith this?
Mr. Chair, let me try to get her something. This is my fault for not getting her something up to this point. A couple of these things have just, come into our purview the last couple of weeks.
Sure.
And we
Okay.
have something in there already about stormwater. I would like to refine that a little bit better, that we have, the council has going forward in the future has a little bit better understanding of that as it relates to the budget.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you what, Councilman, why don't you send me your piece and put in red, as Councilman Ledford did, what your changes will be. And once I get everybody's, if they want changes, then I'll recirculate this.
That'd be great. I appreciate your help.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Mitchell. Councilman, let's see, well, Human Resources. I'm sorry, I skipped over Youth and Family Development, Councilwoman Coonrod. Anything in your department that you would like to modify or update?
Thank you, Chair. I think for me, like right now, we have a few months with this administration. I'm thankful for all the budgets that they have been considerate to youth and family development. It is a very important department because it has the ability to touch the lives of so many people and change their lives. It's to me, it's sacred. So I think for me is that I'm just gonna wait until whichever person out of this 18 that are running for mayor and hold them accountable to saying that they're gonna work with council on the front end rather than on the back end. So that's something that I'm listening to. And the ones who have voiced that, if you win, I'm gonna hold you accountable to exactly that, because I feel like council members, we should work with administration during the budget time. We shouldn't receive information during the same exact time that our constituents receive the information. I believe it needs to be separate. That's just my personal opinion. And I've been here a couple of budgets, and I've seen even with our goals that a lot of it isn't meshed with the budget. But again, I am appreciative of the mayor and the administration for all that they've done. I don't want anybody to think I'm throwing shots at them. It's just that I'm a council person that like to be more involved and not to get the information or to get involved on the back end and try to fight to correct it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So,
Councilman Mitchell, I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilwoman Burrs.
yeah,
You
so
got to follow
I
up.
was looking at the goals and objectives that you have in youth and family development, and they look really good, and they are in mesh with the budget or what the decisions are. However, I hear you, And is there anything, I guess, that you want to add or do nothing for right now?
Not at all, because the things that need to be added it's not going to be a change to where it is going to happen to after the new administration comes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Mitchell, follow up on your.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to ask, or maybe do a little lobbying to Councilperson Coonrod as far as adding. I see on here one of them that says ensure equitable funding for facilities and programs. And in a general way, this is where I'm coming from, but of course, we built and put a lot of resources into Avondale. We're doing something similar, but on a smaller scale at Eastlake. But it's been 20-something years since the centers we did a massive upgrade of centers and things like that. And I've heard Councilwoman Coonrod speak of this before, and I guess I'd like to lobby her to think about putting something in there that would commit the council to pushing for that. And of course, that would be more along the capital lines. But I think that's overdue when we're talking about something from 1997 to maybe 2001. We did some extensive stuff, but we really haven't since, and as a city. So I'm just pitching that to Councilperson Coonrod. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Coonrod, would you like to add massive upgrade for the community centers? Or
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's been a part of the plan and several discussions, and yeah, we can add it.
How about if I add it with under two, where Councilman Mitchell, I won't do anything. I'll let you review it first, but something about massive upgrade or equitable upgrade or something of the community centers.
Okay, sure. I'll get back to
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, we've talked about it the whole time the council's been together. Maybe putting it in writing maybe makes a little bit stronger statement. I would hope, but I would totally agree with Councilperson Coonrod. It's probably going to fall into the hands of the next administration to do something like this. So, but I feel the need at this point in time to state it.
Thank you.
But it's not my committee, so I yield to the good councilwoman.
Okay. All right. Human Resources and Personnel, Councilman Gilbert, anything that you'd like to update or change?
I might add something. I probably get with Councilwoman Byrd this week or first of next week, dealing with but I give the language to her probably this week and next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, very well. So Councilwoman Byrd, it does appear that several have some changes to be added. Do we want to put this back on our strategic planning agenda for the 5th to revisit at that time to make sure that, I mean, maybe just a final brush of it to make sure it's like it needs to be?
Yes, sir. I'll try and I will modify it as based on what I've heard and what I received. And let's just go over it one more time.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd just like to know that we have it, like we all want it before we submit it. So Madam Clerk, would you put council goals and objectives follow up on our, and I guess that would be the 5th of January strategic planning meeting.
Yes, I'll add it.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Very well.
Thank you.
Okay. Something that I believe it came up last week or the week before is council meeting start times. And I think Councilwoman Coonrod brought it up, but it was a suggestion that had been made by Councilman Ledford based on the fact that we are now Zooming. So Councilwoman Coonrod, I know you brought it up. I didn't know if you want to yield to Councilman Ledford, let him pitch his idea, or how do you want to handle that, ma'am?
I'll yield to Councilman Ledford.
Very well. Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Councilwoman. Basically, I'd send an email to council upon our meeting there, where we started council at 4 p.m. one day, I think that was for election day. And it just seemed to occur to me how efficient that day went when we were able to start a little bit earlier, conduct our business, bring in staff during the business day, not quite so late in the day, start our council meetings at 4 o'clock. And I think it allowed for more time. It felt like everybody seemed a little bit more fresh, if you will, or alert, or than waiting till 3:30 or later in the day, starting meetings at 6 o'clock. And I just thought we should talk about it and maybe suggest that while we are on Zoom, as long as the governor's executive order stands and allows us to do this, which I am foreseeing probably will be for another 3 months, probably till the end of this term. But I just wanted to see if anybody else wanted to discuss this, to see if it would be an idea that we could go ahead and move our time up and conduct our business during an earlier part of the day.
Okay, I will wait for hands to respond to that question to see if anybody has comments. Councilman Gilbert.
Chair, this is to the left, Councilman Leffert. Can you give me the time frame for all meetings? You said 4 o'clock starting the 6 o'clock meeting, but what about the other times?
Yeah, so, and Nicole, you might have to jump in here and help me, but I think one day when we had strategic planning, maybe we started at noon and kind of staggered the meeting appropriately from there. Is that right, Nicole?
Yes.
Do you recall? Okay.
Yes, I think it started at 12 and then there was a meeting at maybe 1:30.
Maybe at 1:30, and then I think we kind of moved it forward from there. It seemed efficient. It seemed a good use of time. Our employees are not, we're thinking about our employees. There's a lot of employees on these Zoom meetings that are taking time from their families at 6 o'clock. And I think that as long as we're meeting on Zoom, that, they have things that they need to do. And I just think it would be more efficient if we could try to move it up and get our work done during the day, as long as we're on Zoom. Understanding when we go back to meeting in person, 6 is a better time for people who want to attend and be with us. And I think that's great. But right now, I just think maybe we should consider it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not seeing any other hands at this time. I guess Councilman Gilbert, my question Councilman Ledford, how do you see Zoom being different than meeting in person?
Well, I think what we've discussed in the past about meeting in person is that people have to travel. They get off work in the afternoons, maybe it's 5 o'clock, and they travel to our council building. And staff who's next door, a lot of the administration staff, they're either at City Hall, they're at DRC, so they walk up. And that's one aspect of meeting in person. Meeting on Zoom.
I need Jenny.
Yeah. And Dr. Burrs needs Jenny.
I can't, I've lost my picture totally.
Councilwoman Burrs?
You may want to mute Dr. Burrs.
Yes.
But let me call her
Yeah,
right
go-
now.
Nicole, can you mute her?
I can't get back on.
Yeah, she
think-
can't hear us. So
There you go.
there you go. Anyways, the thought was just, really trying to use the work day more efficiently. And thinking about the employees and the people who are away from their families, or I just think it would be an idea to consider while we're on Zoom.
So before we go to
Oh, and Tony can get in his pajamas a little bit earlier.
side note, huh?
Yeah, just it's all for Tony.
Councilwoman Burrs, can you hear me?
I think she is
I'm not sure. She can even
MIA
hear
at the
me.
moment.
I don't think she can even hear me.
She can't see or hear us now, I think.
Okay, she may be having some real computer problems.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Burrs, can you hear us? No, I don't think so. Okay, Councilman Gilbert, is that a new hand or an old hand, sir?
That's an old hand.
Okay. All right, anybody else with a follow-up to the proposed. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. So I think it's a great idea. It's like Lefford has expressed, we can go ahead and take care of our business during the daytime hours. And now that schools are going to phase 1 and students will be virtually learning 100% at home. So our workers can, have more time to spend with their kids doing their homework or having family dinner time and not having to worry about the stressors of a meeting lasting ongoing. I think that's very important that we think about that. If the meeting is accessible through Zoom, and also they can watch it, on streaming on, whatever the PBS station that we have there, YouTube, and so they can always go back and look at it later. But I think it's convenient to access it on Zoom, even if a person is at work. They still can log on to their computers or iPads or telephones even and still join the meeting.
Mr. Attorney, I think it would take a vote of the entire council to change the meeting times. Is that correct? A rule change?
Yes, sir. Currently, your rules of procedure have the strategic planning meeting at 1:30 each Tuesday in the council room, 3 o'clock each Tuesday for agenda session, 6 o'clock for the business meeting. Actually, we're not quite following that right now.
Well, I think it just gives us the ability to meet each Tuesday with strategic planning, although at the current time, we're only meeting every other week.
Yes, sir. So I do think that you need to do what, if you want to have a different schedule than that, it should be a vote and it should be by 5 members.
Okay. So I guess Councilman Ledford, it sounds like that what you would need is a piece of legislation, I guess a resolution with a co-sponsor. And then if it's the will of the council to take it through maybe legislative committee, or if you'd just like to get it on the agenda, whatever would be your pleasure, I guess.
Well, Mr. Chairman, a point of information, but I believe we've changed our rules in strategic planning by a simple vote before.
Your provisions for the rules on here at least say that you can be amended at any time by a majority vote of the council. So it has to be a majority vote.
So
Sure.
this is,
It doesn't have to be on the agenda. It can be in any meeting, Phil.
It says it can be amended at any time by majority.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, that was my point, Chairman.
Yeah, sure.
I think
So
the last time we did this, we did it in strategic planning.
Okay, so Phil, you're saying it doesn't have to be a resolution to change the rules?
No.
Okay, I misunderstand.
And Chairman, and if you'd like to wait until the 5th when we return, because obviously we have Dr. Burrs not in attendance, having difficulties. I see Vice Chairman Smith may or may not be available at the moment. Councilman Byrd is missing. I am totally happy with taking this up again on the 5th.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's go ahead and put council meeting start time on our agenda for the 5th.
Thank you, sir.
And maybe Councilman Ledford, maybe send out
Will do.
once again an email to the entire council with your proposed start times,
Yes, sir.
so that we know what we'll be voting on. And I think I would include in the email that you would like to bring it for a vote during strategic planning on the 5th.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Mitchell.
Mr. Chair.
I
There you
hear you,
Oh,
Councilwoman.
sorry.
All right. So somebody needs to get me out of this thing because it will not let me get back in. So if I could get totally out and get back in, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
I'm not sure who does that.
If you'll go to the bottom right of your screen, there is a little leave word will come up. It's a red box with the word.
Yeah, I don't have any of that. I know that. The only thing it gives me is join webinar in progress, and it won't let me. I'd love to get totally out of this thing and come back in.
We need to kick her out.
Try clicking in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, the X up there. That should take you completely out of it.
Okay. Now, can you hear me?
I can still hear you.
All right, it won't let me out. I'm totally out of it.
Okay, hold
According
on.
to my computer, if you would just take me out and let me come in again.
All right, Nicole, can you remove her?
Let me see how to do that.
Does she need to reboot maybe?
Well, I think no, Nicole can take her out as host. If not, I was looking to see if Brent, I don't see him with us. Brent Messer. Okay, so you must have got her.
He's out now.
You must have gotten her out. Okay. The joys of Zooming. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank
we-
you. I was going to suggest if we could just have it at our agenda session, because Councilman Byrd, he won't be able to attend our strategic planning meetings due to
okay.
employment. So if all of us can be in attendance, that would be helpful. So his voice can be heard in the decision.
Well, Councilman Ledford, that's a good point. I think Councilman Smith right now has sort of a standing conflict with the 2:00 strategic planning as well. So
Oh, agenda's fine, sir. I
the
want
three-
everybody
the-
to have a
The
voice.
3:30 agenda. So I guess, Nicole, if you will,
Other
place-
business maybe?
place that at the end of our agenda session on the 5th.
All right.
And you can list it as other business, or I don't think we have other business on our agenda session, but we can list it as that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, moving on to other business. I know we have pending presentations, the panhandling ordinance review. Oddly enough, that is something that Councilwoman Burrs needs to address, and I guess we will come back to that, given she gets back on here in just a few minutes. I see no other legislative items that need to come before us at this time. We do have a couple of boards that need members appointed to them. You can see them there.
Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, sir. Under item B, pending legislative matters, I did send a revision to the city violations code. Phil, did you get that?
Yes, sir. And I
And
think Maria's already made that change.
Okay, so that is, the changes were made, and I really appreciate Councilman Mitchell's input on the changes to address and be more specific. I think that was very wise, and those changes have been made and I believe circulated to council. So at this point, I think we're just spinning our wheels. We need to just put it on the agenda or not.
Councilman, which ordinance was that?
This is the code violation in a natural disaster area.
I
And
believe
the
it's
changes-
entitled overgrowth on there.
overgrowth, and the changes were made upon recommendation. Like I said, from Councilman Mitchell, he made some really good points on that, and I made those changes and recirculated that to council.
I believe I've seen it.
If we can get that and everybody take a look at it, that'd be great.
Okay, is that not being covered in ECD meeting today?
Yes. Isn't that the same thing?
It-
The citywide natural disaster relief legislation, which is scheduled to be heard in ECD today.
That's in ECD, correct?
Right.
Sir?
Okay,
So after we bring it through committee today, Councilman Oglesby can ask if we're ready for it to be placed on the agenda, and we should be able to get it on the agenda for the 5th.
excellent. Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
All right, let me switch back to my strategic planning agenda. Okay. So that brings us to any other business. Now, we do have an attorney-client meeting that we need to have this afternoon. Any other business that we need to bring before the council at this time?
Mr. Chair, are we going over future considerations?
Well, we normally do that during our agenda session, but if there is something in particular that
No.
you would like to cover at this time, we will.
No, that'll be fine.
Okay,
Thank
all right, very well. Councilman Ledford?
Mr. Chairman, since we're not going to cover that, I'm sensing this meeting is, the attorney-client meeting is needs to happen pretty soon, and we need time. So we are scheduled to talk again on the 5th, I believe, about the agency funding, correct?
That is correct, sir. Yes.
Okay. And I'm, again, sensing you're wanting to get to the attorney-client meeting, so I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Councilman Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will just say I was hoping in strategic planning today. I know there's a couple of ideas floating around about the portion of the budget amendment that we didn't vote on. But I thought that there was going to be some things put forward in this session that would address that. And here's where my concern comes from. We're putting off something that is funding small businesses, and we're waiting till the 5th. And I just got to say, to wait till the 5th, and today's what, the 15th of December, to wait till the 5th, how many businesses are we going to lose before we even get to the 5th and talk about it again?
Well, I guess, Councilman, to respond to that, of course, we voted last week as a council to address this on the 5th. And I think Councilwoman Burrs, and I'm sorry that she's not present with us right now, Councilwoman Burrs is working on getting us some information. She's working with the administration to address this issue on the 5th so that we can make a better decision. I think one of the things that we can do to expedite getting that money into their hands, Mr. Attorney, I believe that we can offer an alternate version to where we can make this effective immediately upon passage of second reading, rather than the normal 2 weeks. So really, we would probably only be losing about a week. We can't have 2 readings in one meeting. So, Councilman, I would prefer that we wait till the 5th. We get the information that we've requested, that we've needed. And I know that in the past, we've worked together as a council whenever we've had concerns or we've had more information needed. We've worked together and to make sure that we make the best decision possible. So I would respectfully request that we go ahead and follow our plan of action that we set forth last week and address this on the 5th.
Well, you're the boss, and I'll yield to you. I just don't want, in the jockeying and positioning for what amount of $1,000 goes to this group instead of this group or anything like that, but I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about helping small businesses. And I'm not over here trying to break things up like that. I think when we take action, we need to take action. So I'm going to yield to your good judgment. I just am very, very, very concerned about our small businesses and how many of them will we lose by not taking this action on that part of it now. And that's all I have to say about that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, Councilman Oglesby.
Yeah, I'm inclined to go along with, and I'll respectfully yield to what, about the movement to the 5th. But the other thing that concerns me in the delay is the rental assistance policy and the funding to the food banks. Given what the times that we're in, and I'm getting a lot of calls about people fearful of their inability to feed their families, as well as the potential of being evicted. The delay concerns me on that, and I just wanted to put that out there.
Sure.
But like Councilman Mitchell, I'll yield to your good judgment.
Thank you, sir. And I know a lot of pressure has been placed on this council to try to hurry and get this pushed through. But like we stated last week, I want us to look professional. I want us to be able to develop a plan that we look like we know what we're doing when we present it and be able to vote on it and not become a cluster. So with that, I'm gonna leave it at that and just say it's my preference that we have our Budget and Finance Committee on the 5th. We come up with a plan, we vote on it, and we move forward from there. I see no other hands at this time. Mr. Attorney,
Yes, sir.
are you ready for our attorney-client?
Yes, sir. Do you want me to log out and come back in?
Well, Nicole, I think you will have to end the meeting and then bring us back or restart the meeting.
Yes.
Okay? All right. See everyone back here shortly.